like I said, can hypnosis unlock your sixth sense?
So in like
So the movie.
1989, there was these cult murders called the Matamoros cult murders. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Midnight Safe Room, where you're safe and no topic is off limits. Today, we're gonna be diving in certain topics that we believe are interesting and just kind of catch our attention. So, take it away, my brother.
Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you guys are doing well, healthy, safe, all that good stuff. It's gonna be a good day today. We're gonna discuss, pretty good topics. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, or any stories you guys want to share, let us know. So I was thinking about hypnosis. Can hypnosis open up your sixth sense? I do know that there's people that can already see, that have a good sixth sense that could see the paranormal better than us, better than other people. But can hypnosis actually open that? There's actually a novel from 1958 titled "The Stir of Echoes." It's a movie. Me and my brother watched it as kids. I don't know if he exactly remembers what happens in it, but it's a good movie. And also, fun fact.
Yeah, I was about to say that fun fact, but you can say it. You can say it.
Yeah, so fun fact. Our house actually comes out in the movie. I'm not gonna say what neighborhood or what house, but it actually does come out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that I do remember when they were knocking on the doors to have the. It was around Halloween to take down the decorations, and I remember that the directors were there and Kevin Bacon, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was a fun time. I remember, yeah, like you said, the crew was going around, and I think they were paying like $100 to everybody to take down their Halloween decorations. And he was actually around signing autographs and talking to people. I was unlucky though; I did miss it. Because I went to sleep over at one of my uncle's houses. So I'm like, damn, I missed the opportunity. But I do know that my dad met him, and I'm not sure if he took pictures with him at the time because obviously cell phones. I don't think cell phones were really a thing at that time.
No, I mean, yeah, I think they were, but or maybe not. But no, he didn't. But I do remember because I was with him outside. It's like I'm never gonna forget it. Like when he told me that that was him, I was like, damn. And it's just funny though, because to this day, some people were so surprised that when they noticed, that our house was there. And we're not gonna say which one, but it was even funny because in school when we had high school when I had film studies class, and I told my teacher that, she was like, "Oh, you get a whole extra credit just for that."
Yeah, so like I said, it's a good movie. It's a good time. So let's dive right in. Like I said, can hypnosis unlock your sixth sense? So, movie starts with an ordinary man. His name is Tom Whiskey. Him and his wife actually end up going to a party. Um, they're talking, discussing certain topics with other couples. Then the sister of the wife actually tells him that that I could open up your mind. You could be more open minded because she always thought that he was closed minded. So she said that in college, she's still going to college and she learned how to like hypnotize people. So he basically tells her like, yeah, go ahead, hypnotize me. Hypnotize me. Like, let's see what happens. So she starts hypnotizing him, and he goes into like this trance where he's in the movie theater by himself, and he could see the screen, a white screen. Um, and I believe that it opens up like trauma from his young self or something like in that sense. So then when he comes to it, you know, his wife tells him like, you didn't feel the pain, and then he's like, what do you mean, like what pain? And actually, what the sister did was that she grabbed the pin, put a pin through his hand, and asked him to bleed from one hand but not the other. So she's like, congratulations, Tom, you're one of the few 8% that basically could get hypnotized and do things like that. But then afterwards, after he gets hypnotized, he starts seeing things like, he starts seeing ghosts, visions, hearing messages from a ghost, disturbing things that obviously nobody wants to know. It never really explains, if hypnosis actually creates psychic abilities, but you don't know, you never know, it might, like I said, there is that other movie, The Sixth Sense, and I did want to touch on it, but that might be for another day, another topic. Um, so yeah, no, his life starts changing after that. I do know that his son actually has something similar to him, but it's more natural because in the beginning of the film, the son is in the bath and he stands and he's talking to himself. It seems like he's talking to an imaginary friend, but he asks the imaginary person, like, does it hurt to be dead? So that gives you the heads up that the child could see dead people basically. Um,
So how we're going kind of going in this, and would you think that the phenomenon of being able to talk to the dead is like a blessing, or would you say that it's kind of a curse?
Man, I mean, it really depends, right? Like, I guess it'll be kind of a, I don't know about the whole blessing thing, because obviously you would be able to talk to ghosts and see things, but I guess that's a disturbing part if they're haunting you or you're having visions that are just violent and horrible or dreams. Because I know nightmares. I mean, nobody likes to have nightmares. Some nightmares are crazier than others. So, in a sense, I don't know. I mean, unless you have them and you don't let them get to you, but I guess eventually after a while, if it just keeps happening, and eventually it's gonna be like, enough is enough. And because like, obviously, how would you feel if you're going back and forth just seeing visions of like a ghost or somebody that passed away, like, pretty intense.
Yeah, no, just especially seeing how people go hysterical and kind of lose their mind, and like I said, seeing movies that we've seen. Yeah, I don't think I would want to do that. I mean, I guess instead of saying it's a blessing, it's more of a, I guess, a gift. If you consider it a gift, because that is something that nobody else would, possibly be able to do. But yeah, I mean, continue with what you were saying.
I do know that there's this one part in the movie where he's sitting down in his couch, chilling by himself after everything that happened. And he turns around and he sees a dead girl, and he freaks out. And he's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" So he's trying to figure out, like, basically, like, what's happening. Like, why am I seeing these visions, or why am I seeing this person? And then I do know that they're gonna go to I think a baseball game, if I'm not mistaken. They're gonna go to a baseball game, and then they're trying to figure out what babysitter to get. So the son suggests a babysitter, so they call her, and she ends up babysitting the son. So at that moment, the parents leave to the baseball game. They're waiting in line, and the son is speaking to the ghost of the girl that the dad saw in the living room. Um, he's talking to her, and then the babysitter overhears, like, oh, like, who is he talking to? So she hears the son say the name, and that's the name of her sister. So she's like, my sister's been missing, she's been missing for a while. Like, how is this boy talking to her? So she figures maybe, they have her in the house, like she's trapped in the house, or they kidnapped her. So she goes and she confronts the child and asks him, like, hey, do you know her? Like, why are you saying her name? Like, where is she? So then at that point, she basically grabs him and kidnaps him. And then, what's his name? Tom. He actually has like this like vision. He looks at one of the signs, and he gets like a vision where he knows that she's taking his son. So he runs out of the game, and his wife asks him, like, what's going on? And then he's like, she's taking the boy. She's taking the boy. So he's running, running, and finally they get to I think the train station, the bus station. Um, and he looks, and they see the babysitter with their son, and the police are there. So they're like, they tell him, like, give us our boy back. And then she's like, no, like, you guys kidnapped my sister, like, he's been talking to her. And then her mom comes out, and she's like, yeah, the only reason why she came here is because I work here. And so it's like a whole commotion. And the sister grabs a picture, and he shows the picture like, this is my sister, the one that went missing, and the cop tells them, like, can you guys just please look at the picture? Can you guys look at the picture? And the wife looks at the picture and she's like, I don't recognize this person. Like, I don't know who she is. And then the dad looks at it and he obviously he's baffled because that's the girl that he's seen in his living room. So now he doesn't know what to think about it. So they end up taking the boy back. They ask them if they want to press charges. They say no. And then a little bit afterwards, I do know that the mom takes the son for like a walk. They're walking and they eventually end up in the cemetery. When they end up in the cemetery, there's actually police officers because one of the police officers, lost their life in the line of duty. So the little boy looks at one of the officers and he smiles. Then after that, the mom tells him, like, let's go. So they start walking. They're walking in the cemetery. And then next thing you know, that police officer that smiled at the little boy was there by them. Um, and then he's on like, she asks him like, is everything good? He's like, yeah, everything's fine. Um, it's all good. Then after that, she says that the boy has like the eyes, that he has something about him having the eyes. Um, then after that, he gives her a card and says, "Oh, your husband should call me. We should set something up." And then after that, like, he ends up leaving, but he says goodbye to the child and he says the child's name and the child says his name. So it's like makes you, it makes you understand that both of them have a certain gift because without them knowing each other, they already knew each other, if that makes sense. So it gets to the point where obviously they're back in the house together, and she wants to give the husband, the card so he can go, but she already knows he's not gonna want to go. So she takes it upon herself to like sneak out and basically leave the son and the dad by themselves, and then she sneaks out and she ends up going to meet the guy. It's like kind of like a shady neighborhood. She knocks, she gets there. He opens up and he said, I told you that I need to see your husband, like not you, like I need the husband. Like he got hypnotized and now he doesn't know what to do with it. Like he's like a receiver now. So he's receiving visions, he's receiving things of that sort. So now he doesn't know what to do. And he talks about the boy, like, somebody's telling him that she needs him to do something and he's not doing it. And eventually she's gonna get upset because he's not doing what she's asking for. So he basically asks her what happened. She explains that her sister hypnotized him. You know, so then she ends up leaving and going back to Tom. He actually goes to visit the sister, and he tells her like, "I want you to turn this off. Like I want you to turn this off." And she's like, "Okay, okay, like I got you." So she hypnotizes him again, and again there he's in that movie theater, and you can see the white screen. And she tells him like, you're alone in the movie theater. There's letters on the screen, and he's like, no, I'm not alone. Like I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Like I'm not alone. And she's like, no, yeah, you are alone. And then he's like, no, I'm not. So then it's the dead girl that's sitting there in the seats, like watching the screen. And he looks at the screen, and it says dig. So what he does is he starts, digging in his house, like outside in the backyard, and his wife's asking him like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm supposed to dig. So he's digging around the house, you know and then I do know that there's this part where he goes out because they have like a block party. Um and then there's these two neighbors. The two neighbors have each a son, and he asks, if they know the girl. And then one of the dads calls one of the sons, and he's like, yeah, sounds familiar, like I heard she went missing, blah blah. So they kind of like downplay it. And he just basically asks him, how the house is, because he's his landlord. So he's like, no, nothing, I probably have to dig around, just trying to be sarcastic, but he's actually digging in the house and breaking things, like crazy. Like he's going crazy because he has to find this girl and what's happening.
So let's just say that you're in the movie or even in some situation where someone is telling you that they have that sixth sense or they're able to see people or see ghosts or any type of you know supernatural type of thing. What's your first like initial thing? Like, are you gonna believe them? Like because of what you know nowadays and the type of things you've seen in movies or read online, or even are you still skeptical and would be like, nah, they're yanking my chain?
I guess it really depends on the person. Like if I know the person, I might, be like, oh man, then they're not lying to me, because they know me, I know them. Like they know what we talk about and all that. So if I don't know the person, I might be a little skeptical about it because I'm like I don't really know them. Or depending if they could tell me something pretty crazy, like oh I know that you had this family member, or I know that happened to one of your family members, or they passed like this, and I'll be like like, whoa, like this person is actually legit. So I guess it all really just depends on how like they approach it, how I approach it, and the conversation that we have.
So let's just say it was someone of us, and then, well, let's say you did know, well, you met someone and they did have that, or yeah, like I guess then in a sense it was someone like us that you do know, or I guess believe you have that trust. Um, would you kind of help them try to like you kind of like help them use it to make it more stronger for them? Like, are they make like kind of like master that ability in a sense, or would you kind of just stay away from that person after realizing they have that?
I mean, not just because they could see ghosts or be around that, like I'll try to, like shun them, or basically tell them not to hang out with me, because at the end of the day, like my circle of friends is really small. Um, so for me, and I'm not ashamed to say that, like, oh, I don't have many friends, and then the friends that I do were like this. Like for me, if you got my back, I got your back, like 110%. That's why I have few friends, because my circle, like I said, it's more of a like a brotherhood type thing. So for me to let you in my circle, like I said, I'll have your back no matter what. Like I'll ride for you. Like I'll die for you. Like that's how I am. That's the type of relationships that I have. And the few people that know me, you know what I'm talking about. Um, but definitely, like I said, that is interesting topic. And I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't want to get pulled in, but then, like I said, if they need my help, I'm gonna help them. Um, So then going back to, the movie, like he's digging in the house, going crazy, not knowing what to do, because obviously he's searching for the girl, but he doesn't know where she is. Um, and it gets to the point where, like I said, he's digging and he goes to get bigger power tools at the hardware store, to start breaking concrete. His wife gets invited to, oh no, so actually they call her and they tell her that one of her family members passed away, um, that they're in the hospital. So, she tells him like, oh, Tom, my family member's in the hospital. And he's like, no, they're not. But the only reason why he said no, they're not is because he knew that they had already passed away. But he didn't want to tell her because, obviously he didn't know how she was going to react. And obviously him being her husband, he doesn't want to like, make her upset or give her the news. But eventually, she's going to find out. So if you, for example, if you had that power and you have a loved one, and that loved one have family members that passed away and you knew before them, would you let them know, or would you kind of just let them find out on themselves?
That's really hard, but me, I kind of want. I don't feel like I should be. I'm not the one to. I guess I'm not the one to just give them that information. I would just kind of let it play off. Like I'm not that higher power. If anybody does believe in that, but Yeah, no, I don't think I would tell that to people personally. I just would, I guess, keep it to myself. Because even then, at one point, I feel like if, depending on the person, if you're trying to tell them, they might take it the wrong way too. Or I guess it all really depends. But moreover, no, I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, no, I mean it is a hard topic to touch. You know, like I said, just because it's a hard pill to swallow, and for you to give that news to somebody, you know, it's pretty intense. Um, so then she finds out, you know, that obviously her family member passed away. She ends up going to the funeral. She takes her son and she asks, you know, her husband, like, "Are you gonna come with?" He's like, "No, because I gotta keep digging." So she ends up leaving with the son to the funeral, and he stays there by himself. So he stays there by himself, and one of the dads, you know, with the son, he goes and he basically, you know, tells him, you know, he confronts him. He's like, "I know what you're doing. You know, they were kids. They didn't know what they were doing, you know," and he takes out a gun. So basically, what happened was that the two sons, I don't remember if they were football players or baseball players. Um, they were they were renovating the house that that family lives in now, and they were outside. It looked like it was pretty cold at the time, and they called that girl over. I think her name's Samantha. I'm not sure. They call her over, and she goes into the house, and obviously the house is like run down, not like bogus, but you know, it's like you could tell that it's being renovated. Like there's plastic on the windows, like some of the some of the places in the house is like bare bones. And you know, she's like, "So what did you guys want to tell me?" And they're like drinking, and then they're like, "Well, we wanted to tell you that we wanted to be your friend." So then she's kind of like, "Well, you know, you guys never paid attention to me. Why all of a sudden now?" So like I said, you know, they're drinking, and they try to, you know, they try to, you know, basically SA her, you know, and she doesn't let herself. So she starts screaming, and the other guy turns up the music, and they grab her. She falls. She hits her face. Her tooth comes out. I know she tries to like scratch the floorboards with her nails, and her nails break. And they put one of the plastics around her so she could like, you know, basically they're trying to shut her up. But within doing so, they didn't realize that they were gonna, you know, suffocate her to death. So that's what ended up happening. And then obviously the dads didn't want to ruin their kids' lives because they had bright futures, you know. So they ended up putting her down there in the basement. And I don't know if I skipped this part, but when, you know, Tom was actually digging before the first dad got there, he was hitting the floor with the sledgehammer, and he ended up hitting the back of the wall, and that's when it broke. Oh yeah, and that's when it broke, and that's when he seen the body of the girl that was hidden there, and that's when he grabbed her hand and this described. He saw this vision, the one that I just described. So that's how it came to be that he realized how she was murdered, and she basically wanted, you know, him to find her and to bring, you know, her to justice. So then the back to, you know, the present day, you know, they're down there arguing, and he has a gun, so he shoots. He like does like a warning shot, and he gets scared, so Tom leaves because he tells him leave, go. So he goes up there, and then he hears a gunshot, so that only makes you think that that person, you know, the dad possibly took his life. And then we go back to where the mom and the son is, you know. She's all like, she has this intuition, like, I have to go check on him, like, I have to go check on him. And the son tells her mom, like, "Mom, like, here, take your knife because you're gonna need it." So she takes the knife, and when she gets there, before she gets there, she's on her way driving. So then he's there in the house, and he's about to I think he's about to like run out because he's scared of what's happening, and then they knock on his door, and long and behold, it's the other dad with well, the landlord with his son, the other, the other two that were part of it. So he starts asking them like, "What the hell are you doing to the house?" Because he sees that the house is in ruins, and Tom's about to leave. He's like, "I gotta get out of here." Then they start fighting him. They start fighting each other, and he also has a gun. So they overpower him. They put him on the floor. They're like restrain him, and then they grab a pillow and they're about to shoot him in the head. But before they could shoot him, the wife pulls up, and they're like, "Whoa, like that's the wife." So they turn off all the lights and they try to hide him. She goes into the house, and before she got there, the son got like a premonition that he saw feathers, like he saw some feathers flying around. So then she's there, and they all come out, and then they basically start fighting for their life. They have her on the floor next to her husband, and she grabs the knife that the son told her like that you're gonna need. So she grabs the knife and stabs the dad in the foot, with the knife, and he yells and he's about to shoot them. But then the other neighbor that was down there that we thought took his life actually shoots the dad and shoots the son, you know. But when he shoots them, the other guy falls to the floor and he shoots up, boom, and you can see the bullet goes up, doom, 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 and then it hits the son's bedroom and it shoots, it goes through the pillow. So that means that if the son would have stayed home or the son would have came back, he would have gotten hit. So it's like a premonition, like the son already knew what was gonna happen, you know. And then the dad tells, the Tom and his wife, like they were just kids, like we didn't know what else to do, like they were just children themselves, like we didn't want to ruin, their futures and all that. So then obviously the police is called, they investigate everything, and then that's when you could see them, they sell their house, they start moving out, they wait for the U-Haul, they pack their stuff, and then you could still see like they're passing their neighborhood, and you could see that the son still can hear voices. So that just goes to show that just because he helped her, like that portal or that sixth sense wasn't closed off, like it was still there. So that means that I guess he's gonna have to help all the people that he hears, because if not, then they're gonna haunt him for the rest of his life. So yeah, it is in a sense, I guess, like how you asked me that question, like consider a gift or a curse. Like I guess in a sense, it kind of might be a little bit of a gift, but I guess it's more of a curse because you're gonna have to be helping everybody out, and if not, they're gonna be haunting you. So that's how, like I said, like how, or like in your eyes, how would you perceive it if that happened to you? Like you had this thing that you could see dead people and they'll keep asking you for help. Like how would how would you perceive it?
Mm, me personally, I don't know. Like I said, I think I wouldn't really. I don't like I said. I wouldn't really enjoy. I don't want to see dead people, so I don't think I would want that. I'll see that as a curse for me. I mean, yeah, I guess you can see it in the way where the boy, I guess, saw the premonition that about the bullet going up there. But yeah, no, I wouldn't want to be in that situation or be able to have that ability to do that stuff. So yeah, I don't think I would want to.
And that's what makes me think and wonder, can hypnosis actually open up your sixth sense, because I know people can hypnotize others, but can it open up your sixth sense? We'll never know. I mean, unless it happens to us, unless we go into hypnosis and they try to do that. But obviously, with everything that could go wrong, like I would never touch that subject, like even then, I don't think I would let anybody hypnotize me. Like what about you? Would you let anybody hypnotize you? Like not to see ghosts, but in general, would you let somebody hypnotize you?
I guess just I don't know. Probably I guess not now because I don't think I said I don't want to mess with certain things and then like I said open certain portals or create certain entities, or kind of make it more difficult for me already than it is. So no, I don't think. I mean, I guess if you were telling me if I would witness someone being hypnotized, I would be in that room, but I wouldn't be the person being hypnotized.
Oh, I get you. So not the person, but you would watch it. Okay. Yeah, no, that I get what you mean.
Yeah, because of the just be like I am interested, but it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily want to participate in that sense. I guess no, because they like especially. I mean, like I said, it's just a movie, right? But you never know with the supernatural and like the outer world. So it's kind of like I said, if I had the ability to see it, I would see it, but not be the person that's hypnotized.
Yeah. No, I get you. And again, like I said, fun fact: our neighborhood and our house is there. I'm not gonna say what neighborhood or what house. And it was from a 1958 novel. Stereo Echoes by Richard Matheson. Um, he's a writer known for blending psychological tension and supernatural concepts. So, if you guys want to read the story, go ahead. If you guys want to watch the movie, go ahead as well. I know there's a Stereo Echoes too, but I wasn't really much of a big fan of that one. I feel like the first one was the best one. So yeah, if you guys want to check it out, definitely check it out. I don't know if it's on Netflix. I'm not sure. But it's a good movie. Like all in all, like I feel like it's an old school movie. We go back to the OG stuff. But yeah, no, like I said, if you guys watch it, you won't regret it. Like it's a good film. But with that being said, is there any topic you would like to discuss? Any theories, anything of that sort, or any questions that you have for me?
I mean, more like in the way that mm, I guess. Do you believe that that's real? Like, do you think that this does exist, or like I said, I mean, obviously you haven't seen it firsthand, right? But just from like I said, doing all this research, do you believe that actually exists? That someone could actually pertain that gift or curse?
I mean, I've never been hypnotized, per se, and I never seen anybody be hypnotized. I mean, except in videos, YouTube videos, things like that. So, I mean, unless I see it, you know, in real life, in person, then I might believe it. And like I said, I'll believe it more if I know the person because I know they wouldn't lie to me, because I know they're not gonna tell me like all of a sudden I see dead people or all of a sudden I hear voices, all of a sudden I'm having these nightmares or these visions, So it really depends, like I said, on the person, and I guess, like I said, there is definitely things out there that we can't explain, Um, like I said, is it possible? I mean, I believe that it is possible. You know, there's a lot of crazy stuff like horror stories, conspiracy theories, you know, that that you can't um deny of the existence. Like even going back to grandma's house, like all the supernatural things that have happened to a lot of people. We did talk about that, I believe, on our first episode. You guys want to hear that? It's like basically ghost stories, paranormal stories that happen in our grandparents' house in Mexico, and we have more. We actually do have more. In the future, we will be discussing, another other topics of Mexico in that house. Um, we do have family members that have their own stories. Maybe one day we might bring them on the podcast. I'm not too sure. Just trying to figure out some stuff first before we get other people here with us. But it's something definitely to discuss and that I want to discuss. Like I said, I do want to get more people in here, but I do believe that it could be done. Like I believe that it could be done. I believe that if hypnosis is real, you can hypnotize somebody and open up their third eye. Like their sixth sense. Maybe not forever, but maybe for a limited amount of time. I would say maybe for them to try and complete that mission. Because just like in the movie, after everything was said and done, like he didn't see it anymore, and you could tell that the son was a natural because after everything was said and done for him, he still heard the voices, and then Tom didn't anymore. It's like it was a switch that was turned on, but then when it finished, the switch was turned off. So yeah, that's pretty much my answer for your question.
Yeah, so that's really interesting for, like I said, people that are, you know, I guess kind of into that topic of hypnotization and sixth sense and that. Um, what I was gonna talk about today is not necessarily like of a movie or like in his what in that, I guess, category. It does still have to deal with crazy situations and something supernatural. So in like 1989, there was these cult murders called the Matamoros cult murders. Excuse me. It was one of the most, I guess, recognized and infamous criminal cases that happened throughout the time. The group was not only organized by drug trafficking or like other beliefs. The person in charge was named Adolfo Constanzo, and then his kind of like right hand person. It was a woman, and she was also known as kind of like the godmother of the place. Was called Sara Aldrete. Point is that like around 19 around like around the 1980 something 1989, these they started as early as that from kidnapping a bunch of people, whether it be like mainly like university students, and then I guess even then just other people in general that they were able to get, but it was kind of they targeted a lot of students too. 1989 though, they ended up getting this guy named Mark Kilroy. So he was an American who was there, and he was studying and visiting right there Matamoros, and they took him. And then pretty much the investigations, they started investigating because they were looking for, obviously, since he was from the USA, they kind of made it more of a big deal. They ended up like finding out that they discovered in a ranch called Santa Elena that's where they had all the bodies. They had like countless amount where you know they were just so fathomed of it. And when they did question them, like why exactly they did that, their reasoning was because if they sacrificed all these people, it would be like a supernatural power will be able to protect them from what they were doing. So they'll say, like if we're gonna kill someone, that higher power will protect us. If we're gonna rob, it's gonna protect us at that time. So I think that's pretty crazy because the fact that like they murdered a bunch of innocent people, and you know just because of those beliefs that they would sacrifice them, that it would bring them like a type of power of protection.
So basically, it was like an offering for a protection spell, right? And with all those people that they murdered, then something must have been working, no? Because if they murdered all those people and they claimed that that would protect them, then something must have been going right for them. Obviously, don't condone murdering for protection, but it makes sense that they kept doing it because I'm pretty sure if they killed one person and then they saw no protection, then they would stop doing it instead of, okay, we'll kill countless amounts of people, and then they got the protection that they wanted.
I mean, in reality, there was more statements from them than actual seeing. I guess you are kind of
Create a space where people can wear their truth, embrace their struggles, and find strength in their darkest moments. We're here to remind you that no matter what life throws your way, you have the power to fight back. You can save 10% off on your order with Midnight 10. 10% off again with your order Midnight 10. Look at the quality of these shirts, guys. Everything about it. It just looks perfect. The lettering, the graphics, everything.
right in that sense because they were saying, how in their belief. But then again, you never know. Do sometimes there's just those people that kind of read into those lore or those like legends or things like that, and just because one type of thing gives like that, I guess, like if you were to summon an entity and they were to give you that, they kind of become involved in that. So then they're kind of like risking and taking that, pretty much of bringing that, like what I'm trying to say is that I guess they're risking it in a way where they're bringing that crazy higher, well, not higher power, but like entity into the world to do all that bad stuff. When in reality, I mean, who knows if that's even a real thing or not? You know, I mean, it's always like something to debate about. Um, Nonetheless, I mean, I thought it was something pretty interesting because the fact that like they genuinely, were called like a cult. They were a cult. Usually over there, it's kind of like the cartel thing or whatnot. But yeah, that was like kind of like a cult that would like do rituals and all that stuff. Like I said, to and offer it to who knows what, but definitely like an entity to, like I said, offer some type of protection. Um, Even then, like I feel like if you, let's just say we were in that situation where we were witnessing it, how would we react?
I mean, I don't know. It's really intense. Plus, if I was there to witness it, like I don't know if I would want to witness like somebody being murdered, but not just that. Like I wouldn't want to be on the other end of the barrel. You know, like I wouldn't want to be sacrificed. So that's scary. You know, like you're basically kidnapped and you're gonna be ready to get gutted. You know, like so that's the way that I see it. Like me witnessing that is not for a good reason. Like either I'm there because I'm part of it or because I'm gonna be next, you know. So it's not something that I would want to be there for, you know. Like obviously, it's interesting to read these stories and you know, pretty fascinating, but it's pretty intense if you think about it.
Yeah, the crazy thing about that guy Adolfo, the one that was like in charge, is that they would kind of see him as like a sense, not as a god, but as a spiritual figure, thinking that he would claim to them that because he would practice that stuff, that he had like magic and all those abilities, and that with them doing those sacrifices and doing that the magic would be able to protect them, which is kind of crazy in the sense when you, like I said, you really really think about it. Like imagine someone tells you, hey, I can help you like be protected forever. You're like, you're, well, how? And I'm like, well, if you sacrifice people, like just think about that. Like just literally let that sink in. And someone actually was like, yeah, like I think I'm gonna go with it, and just go along with it, and I'll be protected forever. Little did they know that, I guess you would say, I guess it didn't work because they get caught.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, yeah, they got caught, but I mean, I guess in their eyes, it made sense that something was going right now because do you know the amount of number that people that were murdered, or was it like students that were murdered, or was it random people that they were kidnapping? Do you know anything of that sort? Like, were they picking people off based on certain things, or they were just randomly picking them? You know, because it's kind of fascinating to, I guess, understand why they picked certain people or why they were doing, you know, the stuff that they were doing. So that's I guess my question is that, like, did they pick a certain person or it was just random?
I believe it was random, and like I said, sometimes they would just have different targets, and that's when I guess they would transition, and then I guess at one point they started going for students, and that's when they got that one guy that was from America, and then it kind of went all downhill for them because unfortunately sometimes in Mexico, like there's a lot of things that happen and they kind of just disregard them, kind of leave them cold. But sometimes when vice versa, like I guess in that sense, since the person was from, like I said, the U.S., they made it more of a big deal, which is very sad too, because just because they're an American, they get that more of, like, I guess, spotlight, I guess, opposed to the other people that in Mexico that were kidnapped. I mean, for all you know, they did investigate over there, but I guess this made a bigger ordeal since it was someone completely from, I guess, foreign.
Yeah, no, that's sad, you know, because obviously it's like you said, certain places just sweep it under the rug and they ended up getting caught because obviously, you know, he was American and he was kidnapped and sacrificed, you know, so they could be pretty much protected, you know. And I guess at the end of the day, I guess, you know, it sucks that they all lost their life, but I guess it was good. Not I guess, but it was good that they got caught so that they wouldn't hurt anybody else. Because at the end of the day, hurting people is not the way to go. Because it's like karma. Karma always comes back. And I've been wanting to talk about karma. To me, um, I don't see it as what goes around comes around. To me, like karma is like seeds. So when you do something, you plant a seed, and when you plant that seed, a tree grows, and whatever grows from there is the fruit that you have to bear. So that's the way that I see karma. You know, I go here, I make my decision, I just planted a seed. Whatever grows from there, whether it affects me in a good way or in a bad way, that's the seed that I planted, and that's the fruit that's gonna bear, and that's what's gonna affect me at the end of the day. That's the way that I perceive karma. Like I don't know what you think when you think about karma. Because a lot of people say that like, oh, karma's gonna come back and it's gonna get you, but to me, is that's the way that I see it. It's the seed that you plant, seeds that you plant, and a tree grows from there, and that's your fruit.
I mean, I guess before I used to have that concept of you do good, good things happen, bad things bad happen. But I guess in a sense, I don't believe in karma. I guess it's just if you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're like, because regardless if you're bad or not, good or bad things happen to you. If that makes sense. So, me personally, like, no, not trying to say on anyone if they believe it or not, but just my opinion. Yeah, I guess I kind of just stand on that mentality now where I don't believe in karma. Because like I said, regardless good or bad or what you are, you good and bad things will happen to you. You know, that's just like the way of life, I guess you can say.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it. Like I said, you have your way, I have my way. Um,
Yeah, no, then that's the beauty of it. That here, in this channel, not only will do you feel safe, but welcome to express yourselves however you want. Like I said, mainly whenever we talk about in this channel, it's just things that we're interested, or that catch our attention. And then again, when we state what we believe in, it's just a belief, it's not a fact. It is our opinion. So if by there no needs or no means of necessary to like offend anyone or say I'm right or you're wrong, no type of that. It's just kind of like a general discussion and just opinionizing on things. But another thing that I wanted to talk about is just kind of like growing up, when we were younger, kind of like playing all those scary games like Slender Man or I don't know, like any type of like horror game on the PC, but Slender Man was kind of like the big one. But I'm pretty sure you heard of this game called Sad Satan. So this game was like kind of it came out on like 2015, and then they were taking a lot of videos. I'm pretty sure like you remember, even like with the old YouTube logo and all those other things kind of going on, huh?
yeah, I do remember. I remember at the time it was like Slender Man, where you would collect the notes, and then they had like a Teletubby one too.
Oh yeah, the Slendy Tubbies. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, point is they had this one that was Sad Satan. It was kind of like a deep web game. Point is you would go through like a place like through hallway, like, and you were in a building or something, and you were going through hallways, and throughout the hallways, I guess you would hear like scary noises and flashing lights would pop out and images that were scary. Typical horror thing. Apparently, there was a thing going on the internet around that time that someone in 4chan had created like their own type of like version of it, but instead of it kind of being like similar or something like, well, it was similar, but it was way more, I guess, way more sinister than what it was. But point is that somehow it was downloaded, and when people would play it, like it had a Trojan or like a virus in it where it would kind of take your whole information and mess up your whole computer. But even then, that some people were even, I guess, not necessarily say lucky, but were unfortunate enough to see that when they were playing that game, in the original one, I mean, they would show images, like certain scary images, but this one it was actually real, like actual people, or like gruesome images of people, that are unalive or that are in certain different ways, and just really gruesome and scary things that would traumatize you. So I would just imagine, you as a kid, growing up and just having that curiosity. You know how sometimes as kids, the curiosity killed a cat. And even though that you know in your mind, like, oh man, it's probably gonna be a bad thing or not, just as a kid, you have that stubbornness, or even as adults, growing up over our parents tell us like, don't touch that stove because it's gonna burn you. Don't touch that stove, and then look around, and there you go, burning yourself. But yeah, dude, could you imagine like being a kid and seeing that, like seeing someone that's passed away or someone that's like mutilated or stuff like of that nature? I don't necessarily know what, but what were in those images? I mean, I think I heard apparently once they found out, they were able to like take it down. But like I said, it's only for the people that I guess were able to see it. Who knows if it's a myth or it actually did happen? But I mean, in your eyes, you being a father and everything, or just you being in that situation, how would you react? If your child saw that, or if let's just say not even that, if you saw that video or those images, my bad.
No, like I mean, I've seen my share of things. Like growing up, that's what it was all about. Like, yeah, we had stuff to do. I feel like back in my day, like, I feel old now saying that, but we would go out more. We would go out more, roller skate, um, ride our bikes, skateboard, ride the scooters. But then when we were bored and we're growing up, like in high school, I guess close to like eighth graders to high school, like that was like in the internet, you could see a lot of stuff, dude. Like it was traumatizing, like videos of people unaliving themselves, people unaliving others, like some crazy stuff, man. Like like that's something that would traumatize you. And we were just kids, so we were just like looking at it as entertainment. But now thinking back, even thinking back, I'm like, damn, like I shouldn't have seen that stuff because it like desensitizes you, and it's like it's bad.
I just think it's crazy, dude. Because nowadays I think about it, like seeing that, like or seeing the things that we saw growing up. I'm like, damn, why the hell did we watch that crap? And I'm like, why was that even? Why did we even think that was like cool or was like, what the hell, Like not necessarily like we found it fascinating. We were just like, what the hell? Kind of like we had to get that what the hell moment. But honestly, like I said, now as an adult, no, that I honestly regret seeing a lot of crap I saw on the internet because it was just so insane. Like I said, just the things you could find on there is out of this world.
Yeah, that's why your PC would get like all virus, all crazy, because you would watch and download like a bunch of stupid stuff. So it's like, yeah, RIP to a lot of my PCs. They randomly got viruses, you know. But yeah, no, it was bad. Like I mean, you could watch some stuff now still. I don't know. Like I don't search that stuff up anymore, but I'm pretty sure. But there was a lot of crazy stuff back in the day. I remember there was even VHS tapes that you could rent. Um, I forgot what they were called, but there were certain VHS tapes that you could rent, and it would show some like really intense stuff, like really really graphic stuff. Like it, I don't remember what the name was. I'm gonna make a video if anything about those tapes as well. Because those were tapes were really intense. But if the name comes to my mind, I'll let you know. But those tapes, man, they were they were crazy. Like you could see some stuff. Like I said, you could rent them out,
Uh,
but I don't remember the name, dude.
yeah, yeah, I know. It was faces of.
Oh yeah 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 yeah.
Yeah, 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 man. No, see, guys, that's something that. Oh man, it's like just thinking about it now. It gave me that flashback, and it's like, oh man, I saw some fucked up shit, some really bad things, man. And it's like, I guess that's why I kind of was traumatized a lot as a kid. So I would suggest like kind of staying away. Cause yeah, no, I honestly don't know how I said when you're a kid, just certain things is I guess doesn't really phase you, or I don't know. Like I said, it's got that desensitized.
Yeah. So yeah, those videos were crazy, man. Like then there's different volumes. I don't know if you guys could still find them on the internet. Don't quote me on that. I mean, check them out at your own risk. You know, I don't like I said that stuff is really intense, really traumatizing. You know, is it's yeah, the videos they're called faces of, you know, Death. I'm pretty sure that I spelled it right, but that's what they're called. They're pretty they're pretty crazy. They're intense. And I was watching that when I was a kid.
Yeah, and it just like I said, always makes you think of the things that go on and right now at life or even anytime. Whether right now, see, right now we're literally in here just recording in our podcast room, but you don't know what's going on outside, But with that being said, I mean, I feel like we touched upon some pretty like sensitive topics here, or pretty interesting ones. As always, guys, if you did find anything, that you liked or concern or anything about that, you could always comment in the section. You could, like I said, if you do have any type of experiences or stories, or even if you want to have a chat with us, do let us know. Comment in the, you could always put them in the comment section or DM us directly. Um, Anything you want to say, dude, before we kind of head out?
Well, just stay safe out there as always. You know, like, subscribe, and just stay tuned to the next episode. You know, like I said, I feel like we're getting a little better with this. You know, just with everything, just editing, recording, you know, performing. So yeah, like if you guys have any stories or anything you guys want to share, you know, feel free to. You know, like I said, comment, subscribe, like. And again, thank you for being here with us. You know, where you guys feel safe and no topic is left untouched. Do you have anything else to, or that's it for today?
No, I think that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, like my brother said, as always, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with us and be safe. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you all. No, I think that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, like my brother said, as always, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with us and be safe. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you all.
A red glow crawls across the wall.